All right, excellent afternoon to all those who are watching me across the states in Nigeria. They said nobody will fix Africa for Africa better than Africans, and nothing will fix Africa better than fixing its best blessings and talent, which are the women. You know, the growth of our country and the competitiveness of our country depends on our investment in our women at every states, or will I say every corners. Again, I say welcome to another interesting episode of Real Talk with Kike. I remain your convener and of course your chief host, Kike Atanda-Owo, and it's time for us to hear what On This Day in History has for us. Stay tuned, I'll be right back. All right, my biggest preoccupation for this month of International Women's Month, as I've mentioned in my previous episode, has been to celebrate outstanding women as an inspiration for this generation. The theme for this year, 2024, is Inspire Inclusion. There are no time women had been in need of this inclusion better than now. Over the last 6 episodes, I've interviewed women who have traversed borders and the African pitch of influence. And on the live show today, my conversation will eat deep with another international woman, her career impact at world level, her ongoing contribution to Nigeria, and more importantly, what the journey for women to become a global leader. She has been listed as one of the 50 greatest world leaders, Fortune 2015, and of course, you know, the top 100 most influential women in the world in Time magazine 2014 and 2021. Again, before we delve further, I think it's important for us to check the profile of my guest, and when I return, you will be listening to her voice. Stay with me, I'll be right back. All right, welcome to the show, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. I mentioned that name with so much respect, and I feel honored and proud as a woman to have you on my show today. You have always been a tower of inspiration for me. Perhaps I should have started the show with number of times I've mentioned you on this platform to my audience, or even outside the live show, and I must say many thanks for honoring this invitation. I know you're a woman who is extremely busy. Your time is something that I appreciate right now, and our interview will take on issues that affect women as it pertains to International Women's Day, and I would also address issues that pertains to Nigeria economy and global affairs. At the same time, it is also, you know, a pleasure. I don't know how to, I'm trying to curtail my excitement and keep it professional. Many thanks again for joining me today, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Kike. It's a pleasure to be with you. And let me also say how proud I am of young Nigerian women who are really coming up. They're also an inspiration to me. So it works both ways.
Good to know, Ma. So let's dive straight to the topic at hand. Today's interview is more about celebrating you, Ma, and your ongoing works with a view to inspire women across the globe, just like you said earlier, that even the young women, you know, also you're inspired by them. Speaking about your leadership at the World Trade Organization, WTO, what has it taken you to be the first woman, or should I say first African, to lead the WTO as Director General? What are your top priorities and goals for the WTO during your tenure?
Well, thank you very much, Kike. I think it's taken me a long career in development. I was trained as a development economist. And that means, and I spent a long part of my career, 25 years at the World Bank. But remember, I also was a total of 7 years as Nigeria's finance minister and a short time as foreign affairs minister, where I also spent time working on the issues of our country. So I think that whole accumulation of experience has really helped me when I was competing for the job of Director General of the WTO. I've always cared about how can developing countries invest in themselves, manage themselves better, improve their governance so that they can also begin to catch up with the richer countries in the world in a way that can help us deal with the issues we have coming up, which is a large number of our population who are youth under the age of 25. How will they be employed? How will they be gainfully, gainfully employed so they can be useful to themselves and the economy? So all of this experience, a lot of which also included dealing with trade. You can't do development economics without talking about trade and looking at the impact of trade on the growth of the economy. So that really helped in getting where I was. So when it came time to compete for this job, there were 8 of us. I think I deployed that experience. And I also always said that it's wonderful to be the first woman, wonderful to be the first African, but that should not be the basis of the choice of those who were on the interview panel. And we were being interviewed by, a panel of ambassadors from all over the world. Ministers were watching, looking in. It was quite intimidating. But what I said was, look for the best person who can run the WTO and reform it and solve its problems. It's not because you're a woman or because you're African. Then I said to them, well, I feel I'm that person. So if I get it, it's good also to be African and a woman.
Fantastic insights right there. Many thanks for telling us your journey in terms of reforming and solving the challenges that we're facing. But, moving away from that, advocacy for gender equality and women's empowerment is something I would like to touch on right now. As a prominent figure in a global leadership, how do you advocate for gender equality and women's empowerment in your current role, Ma?
Well, thank you. I think anyone who has followed my career has always known, and I think I have a track record for advocating for women and trying to myself do what is within my powers wherever I am to bring women up. Let me start with what I think is the biggest advocacy point for women. I think if you're a woman in a prominent position, the best way you can advocate for other women is to do a really good job yourself, particularly if you're the first. Once you can show that, look, a woman can do this job and maybe even do it better than a man, there'll be no questions asked. I personally am tired of hearing you're the first woman to do this and the first woman to do that. I think success and for women will be when we stop saying that and it's just taken for normal. So I'm quite proud that I was the first woman to be finance minister of Nigeria and the longest serving if you put my 2 terms together. But what I was aiming for, if I want to advocate for women, I must do a good job. I must focus on my job with a laser beam and deliver. After that, it will become normal to take a woman. And you can see on the Nigerian scene that after me, I think it's 3 more women have been finance minister since then. And I'm very proud of that. So that's point 1. I think the second point is to ask yourself when you're in position, what can you yourself do to raise up other women. And at the WTO, I can give you an example of my style. As the Director General, I have 4 deputies. And prior to this time, most of the time, those deputies have been men. I think there's only one time that they've had 3 men and a woman. Immediately I came, I said, look, this should not be. It's a 50-50 world. So I'm going to go out and make sure that half 50% of my top management team is women. And I did that. So I told the countries that we're competing, when you're fielding a short list, I must have women on that list. And if the woman is as good in interviewing as the man, because merit is important. I also don't believe that you take people because of their gender. You take them because they are the best. But I do believe that women who are the best are everywhere. So during the interviews, you must have women on the short list, so you at least have an ability to test. We did that, and we found 2 brilliant women who were at the top of the list, and they also became DDGs. So I have a 50% list, 50% women, 50% men. And I continue in the next level of management to recruit women to make sure I have a balance in the list. So you yourself need to act. If you're advocating, you must show a good example as well of hiring women.
Fantastic insights right there. Many thanks for all that you've done for women folks. But there are still challenges and opportunities on global trade relations as at this time. You know, what are some of the most pressing challenges facing global trade relations today? And are they being addressed, if I may ask?
Well, I'll answer in 2 parts. I want to say challenges facing global trade and then say a word about women and trade. So on the first part, the challenges facing trade today are quite multiple. We are operating in a very difficult global landscape with what I would call strong headwinds. You've got the conflicts that are ongoing globally in Ukraine and in Gaza. You've got the situation in the Red Sea where the ships are having to be diverted and to take anywhere, you know, from 50% more time to get to their destination, and that is costly. You've got the situation overall of a global economy that is quite difficult and in certain countries very difficult. High inflation, high food prices. I know that in Nigeria, people are also struggling with these things, but in many, many countries of the world, they're all this. What does that do? That dampens aggregate demand, meaning that people are not consuming as much, and that has an impact on trade and the volumes of trade. So for us now in 2023, we are revising down the forecast we had for goods trade. It was 0.8% for the year 2023. We think it's going to come in much lower. We'll know in a few days when we get our forecast on the 10th of April. Even for 2024, we had forecast 3.3% growth for goods trade. We are now looking at something considerably lower. So it's a challenging time. Now, let me move from that to women in trade. One of the things that we would really like to do at the WTO, especially during my time here, is to try to support women to trade more. Because we've done some research that shows that women who trade, who export outside, earn almost 3 times more than those who trade only domestically. And so if you think about that, if we can support women to trade, to produce and trade products outside, they can earn much, much more. And so we are focused on that. What are the obstacles confronting women in almost every country that I visit? Is the same types of things. Access to finance is very, very big. Access to markets. They want to know what markets can we sell our goods in. Quality of products. Sometimes they have products, but they cannot meet the quality standards that are required in the countries they're exporting to. So these are areas where the WTO can be helpful. And I'm very, very proud of what I see all over the world. Women are trading digitally now. So we are now focused on how can we support women to trade more digitally. And in Nigeria, recently I spoke of the launch of a $50 million fund to support women who trade online in developing countries. So these are some of the areas in our rules also at the WTO. We're trying to see how can we make trade rules that are more supportive of women, at least don't discriminate against them.
Fantastic submission right there. Ma'am, I need to quickly touch on something, because when I was, doing research on you, I realized that you had a meeting with the president at the Aso Villa in August last year. You said the purpose of your visit was to channel how Nigerians can, benefit more from the activities of the WTO. I like the fact that you've been able to carry us or give updates on all that you've done thus far for women folks. But I must ask you, what plans and projects are ongoing aside the one that you've shared with us regarding the 50 million naira funds, between Nigeria and of course WTO, to ensure that this will be there'll be impact on Nigerians soon?
Well, let me say this. Luckily, I was just home in Nigeria less than 10 days ago with the Honorable Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment. Together, we launched a series of projects, and of course, the Nigeria's ambassador to the WTO, Ambassador Adamu Abdelhamid. The minister had asked precisely for support on things that can help make, that can impact Nigerians. And I want people to know that the WTO is not a financing agency. It's not like the World Bank or the IMF with financial resources. It has some financial resources, and I'll tell you what we do with those. So what we do is look at how can we help countries trade better. So what did that translate to in Nigeria? The minister told me that we have a series of exports. We want to diversify our economy by exporting more agricultural products, which is wonderful. We have that opportunity, but that they are meeting difficulties in exporting our agricultural products because they are not meeting standards abroad on sanitary and phytosanitary issues, meaning that maybe we are putting too much pesticides, the quality of our products, the use of fertilizer, all of that is resulting in missing out on billions of dollars of exports. And we talked together with the ambassador also, and we picked two crops, sesame and cowpeas, that Nigeria is the third and fourth largest producer in the world of these products, and we could export more. And she asked for help to upgrade the quality of this so that we can export. So we will be working, so we launched a capacity building program. We will start small with couple of million dollars, because we don't need all that money for training. And if we need more, we will get it. To work with extension workers, to work with farmers, to work with the ministry and others, to work with agribusiness people who are involved, to check exactly what is wrong with the quality of the products that we export, sesame and cowpeas, so that we can moderate that. Is it too much pesticides? Is it the wrong use of fertilizer that is meaning that the EU, the US and others are not accepting our products? Once we figure that out, and then we can help build capacity to change it, it can result in billions of dollars of exports. And I think that is impacting Nigerians directly. It's impacting the farmers in the field, the extension workers, the agribusiness people who are going to see their incomes increase. So that is one project we are working on. Another one that I think is vitally important, and the minister herself asked for help with this, which is a brilliant idea, is a trade intelligence portal. To develop a trade intelligence portal that will have information for importers and exporters, up-to-date market information, where they can go. And once they tune in, they will see what markets they need, what are the requirements to access those markets, what they need to do to make sure their products are of quality, et cetera, et cetera. I could go on. All types of market intelligence for trade can be gotten from that portal. And I think that if we can build that, it will be of great service to Nigeria and to Nigerian exporters and importers. So that's another project that we're embarking on. And the third one I mentioned was to do with the women. So we've talked about that already. So just to give you an example, the last one I'll end with is digital trade. So as I said, we need to partner sometimes with the financing agency to get things done. We're partnering with the World Bank all over Africa to see how we can help African countries key into the digital trade. Digital trade is growing so fast now in the world, and digitally delivered services trade, which means all those who are doing things like streaming, creative things online, is growing at 8% per year. And you know, we have so much talent of young people in the continent. So we are partnering with them to say, how can we get Africans to trade more in this area? Well, when you look, you find that some people don't have electricity, they are not connected. So how can you say you trade when you don't even have the basic infrastructure? So the World Bank in 9 pilot countries, of which Nigeria is one, will be working to make sure that the hardware, the infrastructure needed is put in place. The WTO will be partnering to help build the software, which is the regulatory capacity for digital trade. You can have the hardware, but you also need to govern and have the good rules on how that trade takes place. So we will work together with the World Bank to put these two in place. So that's yet another area in which Nigeria will be benefiting.
Fantastic insights right there, and I must say well done, Ma, for all that you're doing thus far in terms of impacting the society at large. But I have 2 questions for you before we go on a break, because I know that we are time bound. You know, you are a trained economist and a world renowned financial management experts. You know, Nigeria and Africa have a vast wealth of many people like you. You know, I mean, people in authorities in different areas of discipline. I struggle to understand the reason why we are still where we are as a country in terms of development and progress, despite many heads with intelligence and brilliance in global affairs. That's my first question, Ma. And my second question is speaking about the best brains and intelligence that we have in Africa. In the last 5 or 6 years, we have experienced many more of that brain drain due to Japa syndrome. I don't know if you've come across that word, Japa syndrome. You know, how do we advise and advocate for these brains to either come back to develop Africa or be more contributive to the success of Africa wherever they originate from?
Yeah, of course, I know about the Japa syndrome, because I also said we should kapa, which is to come back. I invented another word. If you Japa, you must come back. You must kapa also. But look, I think that when we make our countries and our economies attractive, so that young people find it attractive, they will stay. And we are able to do that. I mean, the world is very challenging now, and there are many headwinds, but we've proven that we can do it. At least the 2 times that during the time that I served under President Obasanjo and under President Jonathan, and hopefully, I hope this will be the same under President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, that we will create an environment, an economic environment that will be attractive enough for young people to stay and not to leave. They leave because there are no good job prospects for them in the country, because the economic situation is hard, and you know, that's what happens. I don't think anybody wants to leave their country. We all want to live in our country. So what do we have to do? We just have to make sure that the economy is performing. So I can only speak of the experience that I know under the 2 administrations that I served. And if you look at the numbers at that time, you will see that we took, I think in 2003, 2006, during the time I was with under President Obasanjo's administration, we took the growth rate from about 2.3%, doubled and tripled it. You can look at the numbers, they speak for themselves. So if you manage to grow the economy, if you manage to do the right reforms so that investors have confidence that you're really running the economy well, they will invest, both domestic. I'm not only talking of foreign investors. We have many rich people in the country and in Africa who should be investing in their own countries. They invest when they feel the situation is good and they can get a reasonable return, and then they can create good jobs for young people. Now, these days also, young people, I always said when I was in office that young people should not even wait for people to create jobs for them. They should create jobs for themselves. They are smart. And you can see so many of them now having startups in the technical and the tech area, creating so many things where they employ not only themselves but others. And I'm very proud of what we were able to do under President Jonathan with the You Win program, youth enterprise with innovation, where we, created a competition that young people, anyone under 40, men and women, could compete with their enterprises, do a business planning competition. If they won, they were picked, they were given a grant and they could create jobs. We created 21,000 jobs during that time. So this is what you need to do. Make your country attractive, whichever African country it is. Make it attractive economically for young people to stay.
Fantastic one right there. We'll go on a quick break, and when I return, we'll go straight to the second segment of the show. Stay with me, I'll be right back. All right, glad to know you are still there with us. In case you just joined the show, today's edition of Real Talk with Kike is all about promoting women in celebration of the International Women's Month. As we all know that the theme for this year is Inspire Inclusion. So I had the pleasure of having a discussion with global recognized leaders who is an African woman, and of course she is she's notable for Nigerian Ankara attire, and most significantly a signature gele hair tie, that I'm even saying that right at the beginning of the first segment of. So she is the Director General of World Trade Organization and former Minister for Finance and Foreign Affairs in the previous administration of former President Goodluck Jonathan and former President Obasanjo, respectively. With due respect, ma'am, I must say many thanks for spending your lunchtime with me. I'm really honored. I'm grateful for your time. But quickly, let me use this opportunity to open the phone lines. If you want to be part of this conversation, remember that you can call the studio number 080-988-77400, showing on your screen right now. We're streaming live on Facebook, on YouTube, both on Real Talk with Kike platform and, of course, on Silverbird platform. Ma'am, again, I'm so grateful, and I must say that you look younger than what you think. But let me go straight to the next question for me. I once listened to your TED talk a few years back on the topic saying, if you want to help Africa, do business in Africa. And it resonated with me. That narrative is like an emphasis to the West or the Europe about their dealings in Africa. They have been doing businesses in Africa all along, including China and other Asian countries. But many of us Africans in recent times have seen it like exploitation, so to speak, for lack of a better word now. Have they been really exploiting us is the word to use right now? Because, and the reason why I'm using the word exploitation also is the fact that we borrow money from France, we borrow money from China, we keep borrowing money. It's really, I really do not understand why the money has become a culture, especially for most administration. I must ask you, what do you think? How do we move forward? Because a stakeholder like you should be able to speak to the issue at hand in terms of borrowing. I'm not saying there's anything wrong in borrowing, but it seems as if it has become an exploiting thing for us in Nigeria.
I think during my time, most people recognized under President Obasanjo, we were able to clear up our debt of $30 billion. And we didn't accumulate, we accumulated very little debt under the Jonathan regime. So the numbers are there. So yes, there's nothing wrong with that, but you borrow reasonably. You make sure you borrow to do things that are productive. And you borrow within your capacity to pay. You always need to look at not only debt to GDP ratio, but debt service to revenue. So if you borrow, how much of the money you have to pay back is going, how much of your revenues are going to be taken for paying back? You always have to watch that. So those indicators are just the things to watch. So I'm an advocate of trying to generate your own revenues internally as much as you can. I'm an advocate of being as strict as you can with your expenditures, your public expenditures. No. And then if you do have to borrow, yes, make sure you borrow to do productive things that are going to yield a return so you can pay back, and don't borrow too much.
This would be my last question to you now, because I know that you are pressed for time. You know, many people think that being a career woman means that you may possibly fail in the home front. You know, Dr. Okonjo-Iweala, your son broke a medical record in Maryland, United States in 2021, being one of the first spinal surgeons in Maryland to perform successful navigated lumbar spinal fusion using a robot. I'm proud of you. I don't know how much I can emphasize on that word, saying I'm proud of you. I don't know, with all humility, and of course with your son. A quick advice to those in the career world that don't think having a successful marriage and successful children is not possible in career chess.
Being a career woman, the thing I'm proudest of in my life is having 4 wonderful children who are good human beings. Yes, they may be successful in their careers, but they are also good human beings. And that's what's important to my husband and myself. You know, it's not easy to do both, be a career woman and have a good family and successful marriage and so on. But it depends a lot on your spouse. And that is where the partnership comes in. So if you and your spouse have a good conversation where you agree that both your careers matter equally and that you will both support each other equally, then that sets the basis. So when young people come to me, I always advise them, when you're going into marriage, don't be shy. Some of them think they go in, they don't say anything. Then when they get there, they start telling their husband their aspirations and what they want to do with their life. No, have that conversation before. Let them know you want a career and that you also want a family. So both of you can decide together how best the two of you can do that together. No woman can do it by herself. You need your partner, you need your spouse to support you. So I'm lucky to say I did have support. Is it easy, or are there not difficulties in the marriage and in the rearing of children and in the career? All of these things, you will encounter difficulties and obstacles. But as long as you can have a good dialogue with your partner and be able to solve those problems when they come, that is the point number 1. I think point number 2 is to bring up your children to also understand that they have to be part of the household. What do I mean? We taught our boys to cook when they were 12. I have 3 sons and 1 daughter. And that's one of the things. So it's not just teaching my daughter. We taught the boys how to cook. Because if I was traveling and my husband working as a neurosurgeon and trauma surgeon was always busy, if they come back from school and I'm not there, they can go and fry plantain. They can make spaghetti. They can make rice and stew. It took me a little more time to teach them how to make okra soup. So they learned how to cook. And I think it's good because now 3 of them are married and they cook with their wives. So I think teaching your children life skills when they are young, making them understand that they need to support you. The mother is not there just to take care of everybody, but they can also help with the household. These are all just a few tricks. That gives you a little more room to do your work. So yes, you can do the 2 together, but you need understanding husband, understanding children. And sometimes you also need to take a little time to take care of yourself.
Many thanks for all your submission thus far. I must say I'm grateful again to have you on the lunch show, Real Talk with Kike. I'm moving to the last segment. If you do not have time anymore, I would understand if you take a bow. But the last segment of the show is the trending story that caught all our attention, that affect us all as Africans, as Nigeria, and that is the Zenith Bank new boss, Dr. Adora Umoji. You know, I think this is where I have an opinion, so to speak. And I want to first off say congratulations to Dr. Adora, you know, for her appointment as the Group Managing Director of Zenith Bank PLC. This marks a significant milestone in the banking industry of Nigeria and underscores the increase in the presence of women in top leadership positions, just like, you know, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo have emphasized on, you know, success for women, breaking the glass ceilings. You know, Adora becomes the first female to hold such a prominent role in the banking history, paving the way for more women to ascend to leadership position in the industry. Her extensive qualifications and impressive track record highlights her competence and leadership capabilities with degrees in sociology, accounting, law, and further education from prestigious, institutions such as Harvard Business School, Columbia Business School, and many more. Adora possesses, a diverse skill sets and a wealth of knowledge acquired through the years of experience in the banking industry. And I must say, our appointment not only signifies our individual achievement, but also serves as an inspiration to other women aspiring to leadership roles in banking industry and other industry as well, because as far as I'm concerned right now, she has become, an embodiment of resilience, determination, and of course, excellence, proving that gender, just like what Dr. Okonjo-Iweala have also emphasized, that gender is not a barrier to success in the corporate world. Moreover, I feel Adora's involvement in various professional bodies and a recognition by the federal government with the national honor of the Officer of the Order of the Niger further attests to a significant contribution to nation building, a commitment to excellence in a field, and this achievement resonates with the wider trend of women breaking barriers across various sectors. We're seeing a growing number of female CEOs and leaders in traditional male-dominated fields. So while Dr. Adora is the first woman to lead Zenith Bank, she's not the only one making waves in the Nigerian banking industry today. Time does not permit me to mention these accomplished women who are making waves in the banking industry, but I believe that we know them. So to those women listening to me out there, thinking that some things are impossible, this is a challenge to us to work harder and get the gates open for our excellence. On this note, this is where I draw the curtains of the show. I want to use this opportunity to say many thanks again to our guests. Indeed, we had an awesome show on today's edition, Real Talk with Kike, courtesy my powerful guest, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. Many thanks again for watching. Bye now.